Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today, we're taking a deep dive into some really vital insights about social connection, specifically the profound impact it has and, well, the serious consequences when it's missing. Our sources highlight this isn't just about feeling a bit blue. It's a really important discussion, especially concerning men and boys. It's being framed as a serious public health issue, actually, with pretty far-reaching effects.
Absolutely. And our mission today for this deep dive is really to unpack the differences, the critical ones, between social isolation and loneliness. We'll explore their sometimes surprising causes and the huge health implications. And then, importantly, zero in on some actionable solutions. We'll particularly emphasize the power of actual, in-person human connection. So you should walk away with a much clearer understanding of why this all matters so much for our well-being.
Okay, let's get into it then. Before we go much further, it seems really crucial to pin down these terms our sources use, social isolation and loneliness. They sound similar, right? But what's the key difference we need to grasp here?
Yeah, that's definitely the right place to start. So our sources explain social isolation as the objective state. It's measurable. Think of it like a near complete lack of contact with society, staying home all the time, no calls with family, actively avoiding people. Loneliness, though, that's the emotional response. It's complex, usually unpleasant, a feeling of lacking connection. And this can happen even if you're surrounded by people. Yeah. So the crucial distinction really is that you can be isolated but not feel lonely, or you could feel intensely lonely in a crowd.
Right, that makes sense. The objective state versus the subjective feeling. It's a powerful distinction. Okay, so keeping that difference in mind, what are the sources telling us actually causes people to become socially isolated? What leads them down that path?
Well, they point to a whole range of things, really. Some are deeply personal, others more societal. For instance, a family crisis. Things like child abuse or neglect can sadly lead a child to feel sort of defeated and just withdraw. Health issues and disabilities are another big factor. People might isolate themselves out of embarrassment, maybe fear of judgment. This is apparently common with conditions like autism. And then there's loss. Losing a spouse is huge. Our sources specifically mention men who feel abandoned by their wives, which can spiral into loneliness and depression. But even just living alone is a risk factor. There was a 2015 study showing 13% of U.S. adults lived alone. That was up slightly from 1990. Interestingly, it increased for the 45-65 age group, but actually decreased for those over 65.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And then there are more kind of practical barriers. Unemployment, especially finding a new job, is tough, or even just transportation problems. If you can't physically get out to see people or go to events, that's a major barrier.
It really sounds like a web of potential causes. No single thing, but lots of pathways. What about things like early experiences or even just how society feels?
Absolutely. Societal adversity plays a role. Sometimes people just want to avoid negativity, rude people, hostile environments, judgmental attitudes. That can lead to preferring solitude. Early life stuff matters too. Feelings of shame, guilt, alienation from childhood experiences, or even just being really preoccupied with your own individuality can start patterns of isolation early on. Developmental disabilities like learning impairments that can impact social skills, self-esteem, make someone feel different. And we have to mention substance abuse. It's often tangled up in this, both a cause and maybe a result of isolation. It often goes hand in hand with mood disorders.
Yeah.
And living alone, unfortunately, can sometimes make substance use worse.
Wow. That's a really comprehensive and frankly quite sobering list, just how easily this can happen. But this is where it gets really critical, right? What are the actual health consequences? Mental, physical. What does being isolated or lonely do to us? The sources seem to have a staggering list.
They really do. And it's stark. Mentally and emotionally, loneliness is a major trigger for depression, for alcoholism in adults. It's also a big risk factor for suicide. It connects to sociological ideas like Durkheim's egotistic suicide, that feeling of being utterly disconnected from the group. Sources even link it to things like a schizoid character type or the self in exile. These descriptions point to a really deep inner detachment. For kids, lacking social connections is linked to antisocial behavior, even self-destructive actions. And cognitively, it hits learning, memory, sleep, focus, even logical and verbal reasoning. Social isolation specifically is tied to cognitive decline, neuroticism, that tendency towards anxiety and worry, and sometimes in severe cases even hallucinations. And for men, interestingly, isolation often means a reduced ability to handle disagreements well, lacking those tools for healthy conflict.
Okay, that's the mental side, which is already huge. What about physically?
The physical side is just as alarming. Chronic loneliness isn't just sad, it's described as a serious, life-threatening health condition. It's a risk factor for stroke, cardiovascular disease. It contributes to high blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity. It jacks up your cortisol levels, your stress hormone, and that causes a cascade, right? Anxiety, digestive issues, heart disease, sleep problems, weight gain. Your immune system takes a hit too. Impaired cellular immunity. So lower activity of natural killer cells, higher antibody levels for viruses like Epstein-Barr, could even make vaccines less effective like the flu shot in young adults, and worsen disease progression in conditions like HIV.
Just to really hammer this home, one source we looked at from Connecticut Mental Health stated that lacking social connections can increase your risk of death by at least 50%, and in some cases by more than 90%. That's almost hard to believe.
It is staggering, isn't it? But the data backs it up. It really highlights that this isn't just, a minor issue. We're talking significant health risks, including mortality, directly linked to persistent loneliness and isolation. It's often part of a cluster of symptoms alongside serious illnesses.
Okay, so the problem is clearly severe, multifaceted, dangerous. What do we do? What does this mean for us? The sources do shift towards solutions, thankfully. How do we build or maybe rebuild those connections that are so vital?
Right, the focus shifts to solutions. And psychologists really hammer home the importance of a strong social support network. And that's not just a fuzzy idea. It refers to actual resources, psychological material that your network provides to help you cope with stress. It could look like many different things. Someone helping with chores when you're sick, offering financial help if you're in a tough spot, giving advice. Or sometimes, just simply being there, offering care, empathy, concern. The research consistently shows this strong link. Good social relationships equal better overall health and wellness.
That makes total sense. It's like a buffer against stress. So, digging into the practical side, our sources had some great tips from mentalhealthamerica.net. What are some of those concrete steps people can take to get connected or stay connected?
Yeah, they suggest a really practical approach, basically creating a plan. First step, identify your network. Make a short list, supportive friends, family, maybe people you need to keep in touch with, like aging parents or distant friends. Then commit to actually contacting them. Schedule it in, regular calls, emails. Maybe plan some in-person time if possible. Make it reasonable for you. They even suggest trying for at least one emotional connection daily. Plan it realistically so it's not overwhelming. And for distance, use the tools we have, video calls, social media, whatever works.
Okay, so identify, commit, connect daily. What about the quality of that connection?
Crucial point. Communicate openly, honestly. Share what's really on your mind, but constructively, and be direct about what you need. Is it just an ear? Help problem solving. New ideas. Maybe just a good laugh. Don't be afraid to ask. Also, value their perspective. Ask what they think about your situation. Show you care about their input, and practice active listening. Ask about their day. Follow up on things they told you before. Showing genuine interest really builds those bonds. And hey, it might even give you a new perspective on your own stuff. Be ready to offer support back, of course. Listen, help if asked. And finally, make social plans. Create opportunities for fun things you'll both enjoy. Just having something to look forward to boosts your mood and energy.
Those are really good, tangible steps. But here's something that really jumped out at me from the sources. They don't just say connect. They put a huge emphasis on how specifically in-person, face-to-face interaction. Why is that so much more critical than just texting or being online?
Yes. This is such a vital point. And it really boils down to the fact that most communication, the vast majority, is actually nonverbal. Dr. Albert Mehrabian's studies are often cited here. While people sometimes quibble about the exact 93% figure, the core takeaway is solid. Most of the meaning, the feeling, the trust. It's conveyed not through words alone. It's in the tone of voice, the facial expressions, the gestures, the posture. That's where the real connection happens.
Okay, so nonverbal cues are huge. What else?
Well, face-to-face allows for touch. Even something simple like a handshake. There was an experiment, I think, University of Chicago and Harvard, where negotiators who shook hands were more open, more honest, got better results. Why? Because apparently, a handshake literally activates reward centers in the brain. It conveys warmth, builds rapport almost instantly. Also, it's just harder to hide how you really feel in person. You can see those micro expressions, the subtle shifts, like pupils dilating when someone's happy, constricting when they're maybe sad or upset. You absorb that emotional data directly. This makes face-to-face ideal if you think someone's holding back or if you really need to gauge the truth of a situation. And finally, there's just more engagement. Sure, it's rude to be on your phone when someone's right there, but more deeply, all your senses are firing. You're noticing things you just wouldn't pick up on a video call. It forces your brain to work a bit harder, be more present. And that deepens the connection in a way screens just can't match.
Right. So bringing this all together then, it seems abundantly clear. Social isolation, loneliness, these aren't just, minor inconveniences. They genuinely lead to serious mental and physical decline. They can actually shorten your life. It's a major public health challenge.
Absolutely, it's profound. But as our sources stress, the good news is that this cycle can be broken. It's not a life sentence. Rebuilding, reforging those healthy relationships, family, friends, community, especially through that rich, in-person, face-to-face contact, that's the key. The depth you get, the nonverbal understanding, the strength of those bonds formed in person, that's critical for support, for resilience, for recovery.
And just one final thought here, something quite provocative from our sources to leave you with. Consider this. Anyone who actively promotes social isolation over healthy in-person social support, well, they're likely either trying to sell you something or perhaps trying to isolate you, make you vulnerable for some other hidden reason.
That really makes you think, doesn't it? It poses an important question for you to consider. Why might someone else actually benefit from your isolation? It's a powerful idea that really underscores how protective and, frankly, empowering genuine, real-world social connection truly is.
We really hope this deep dive into social isolation, loneliness, and the absolute power of connection has given you some valuable insights, maybe some surprising facts to chew on. What stood out most to you from today's deep dive?